Hello everyone, it's Joseph Dunphy here, and this is your weekly Grass10 grazing management update on the dairy edge. The pasture-based data for the week: the average farm cover is sitting at 714 kilos of dry matter per hectare, and the cover per livestock unit is sitting at 211 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit. After a number of weeks of growth being ahead of the 5-year and 10-year average, growth rates have slipped back to 43 kilos and demand currently sitting at 48 kilos. And the diet at the minute going in on pasture-based Ireland is 15 to 16 kilos of grass and 4.5 kilos of meal. Dry matter percentages recorded over the last number of days were 14% on second rotation grass in Moorepark, County Cork. Grass growth predictions for the coming week are expected to be in the region of between 47 and 55 kilos dry matter per hectare across the country. Predicted rainfall amounts are expected to be lower than last week, with only 10 to 15 millimetres of rain in the east and 25 to 30 in the west and the southwest. Soil temperatures are expected to bump back up another degree or two to between 10 and 11 degrees across the country. The key messages in this week's podcast is assess grass supply weekly throughout April. Average farm cover needs to be maintained above 600 kilos dry matter per hectare on all farms and 180 to 200 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit throughout April. And once again, a proportion of these farms, about 13%, are currently below average farm cover targets. And when we look into this category with less than 160 kilos of dry matter per livestock unit, the cover per livestock unit in this is at 137, which is critical. And they are going to grow less grass as a result. So supplementation must be increased on this farm or increase the grazing area in terms of bringing cover per livestock unit back up to a more manageable level. Therefore, walking the farm every week to assess grass supply is critical. When entering a cover on pasture-based Ireland, make sure to update animal numbers and grass and supplement intakes weekly. Grass allocations should now be 24 to 36 hours for farmers that are in good grass supply, so animals can fully realise intakes at grass. Some farmers with greater than 260 cover per livestock unit will have to consider removing a paddock for either short-term or long-term silage, especially if growth rates increase. Some farmers also that started second rotation in early April will now be approaching the third rotation by the end of the month. Although growth rates were ahead for the first half of April, growth rates have now dropped back in line or slightly behind the 5-year and 10-year average. And the grass growth curve for this year compared to the 5-year and 10-year averages in this week's Grass10 newsletter. Pre-grazing yield must be kept above 1,300 kilos of dry matter per hectare at all times, so if third rotation grass covers are behind target, rotation must be extended. Nitrogen must be brought back up to date, with the target of having 100 kilos of nitrogen per hectare, 80 units per acre, out by the 1st of May on dry farms, and 80 kilos of N per hectare, or 60 units per acre, by the 1st of May on heavy soils. The improved weather forecast for the remainder of the week, with more sunshine and higher soil temperatures, is expected to help growth rates to increase back up. It's not too late yet to identify a paddock for reseeding and oversowing this April. Poor weather over the last 2 grazing seasons has limited the ability to get reseeding completed on farm. Have a look through your pasture-based data and select a poor performing paddock or a paddock that with a heavy weed burden for reseeding this April. Reseeding enables more grass to be grown, especially in the springtime, higher quality grass to be eaten, and higher animal performance. Reseeded pastures are more responsive to N application and enable the incorporation of clover. Reseeding events are continuing to take place throughout the country, with 4 events next week starting Monday the 28th of April, with an event in Mayo, an event in Limerick, an event in Cork, and an event in County Monaghan. So make sure to check out the flyer in our social media channels or in this week's Grass10 newsletter to attend an event near you. Our featured farmer this week is John Cashen from Carrick in County Tipperary. And John was one of the hosts of our reseeding events last week on his farm. John's milking 200 cows. Cows are currently milking 30.5 litres at 4.1 fat and 3.53 protein. Cows are currently on 6 kilos of meal and 2 kilos of silage, along with about 13 kilos of grass. Average farm cover is 610, growth of 42, demand of 39, and cover per livestock unit is sitting in around 215. He's about 35% through the second grazing rotation. Pre-grazing yield is slightly lower than he would want at about 1250, so he's currently offering some silage at the barrier at milking times. The farm was quite dry up until last week, and he blanket spread 27 units of N per acre when he received rain. John completed 6.5 acres of reseeding last week. This was stitched in, and this was seeded with a high tetraploid and white clover mix and received 3,000 gallons of dairy washings the evening before it was stitched, and also received lime. And then after stitching, it received 2.5 bags per acre of a 10-5-20 and was then rolled. If you'd like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc public website, and the link to the newsletter is also available in the description of this podcast. We'd also like to thank the sponsor of the Grass10 campaign, AIB, Grassland Agro, Department of Agriculture, FBD, and the Farmers Journal. This has been your Grass10 update, and I'll talk to you all next week.